Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. This episode of the Profit Answer Man podcast is brought to you by SMBpodcastnetwork.com. The network is a collection of podcasts and shows from around the internet which focus on bringing you interviews with amazing guests who share actionable advice, ideas, and information for small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs. Visit www.smbpodcastnetwork.com to find more great shows and easily subscribe to be notified of new episodes. It's a great way to discover quality content. If you've discovered us via the network, then I hope you enjoy today's show and will consider subscribing directly so you never miss our episodes. 90% of business owners don't make it 10 years. We don't want you to be one of those. There are some very common reasons why this happens, and that is why we're going to explore and share tips so you can thrive and grow and survive. Most of what we cover is simple, but it seems most people are too busy to do the simple tasks that will ensure success. Our guest today is Charles Alexander, and his mission in life is to help entrepreneurs get focused and beat the odds of business failure. Charles is the director of the Small Business Development Center at Volunteer State College, where he provides one-on-one business coaching and teaches seminars to help entrepreneurs grow their business. Working with over 1,000 entrepreneurs has helped him become a polished storyteller that uses humor and real-world experiences to educate others. In addition to coaching entrepreneurs, Charles owns his own business creating explainer videos for busy professionals. Lastly, and most importantly, he's happily married to his wife and the proud father of 3 lovely kids. Let's learn from Charles. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Charles Alexander. It's great to have you join us today.
Rocky, thank you so much for having me here, sir.
Excited to learn from you. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yes, sir. I am a full-time business coach for a local small business development center. And for any of your listeners out there, I would highly recommend they check out their local small business development center. Almost all of them are located at a college or university, and it is a free resource from your tax dollars, quite frankly. So free is in the same way as the school system and the roads are. You should be taking advantage of it. And we provide one-on-one business coaching for small business owners. We also provide low-cost or even free training for small business owners. In doing that, I also, wanting to practice a little bit of what I preach, started my own business 5 years ago. creating explainer videos for busy professionals. Those are the 90-second animated videos that can teach you all about why somebody is different once you land on their website. I'm sure you've probably seen videos, Rocky. You'll land on a financial advisor's website and they'll say, hey, meet James. James has this issue, and here's how the financial advisor solves it. Those are the things I create, and a lot of profit first kind of mentalities are built into the way I scaled that business up, but managed to practice a little bit of what I preach, and that side hustle has now become a full-time business.
Very nice. Congratulations on that.
You know what, man? I appreciate it. I said I was able to take some of my own advice. Rocky, that's not entirely true. I had to hire my own business coach. I found out I was my worst business client when I started trying to dole out that advice, man. So tip number one, if you don't get anything else out of today, folks, go hire a business coach. Pay somebody money to drag you around by the collar to kind of keep you accountable. And even in doing that, taking that side hustle and turning it into a full-time business before we get off here today, I know that most of your listeners are business owners, but if they know anybody that has a side hustle that wants to join them, or if they're still in side hustle mode, I created a checklist to teach them how to go from side hustle to full-time business, just like I did.
And we'll make sure to include that in the show notes so that
fantastic
people can find it. So what is the one simple thing that 90% of business owners miss?
Rocky, it's going to sound super simple, but I can promise you after 15 years of business coaching, it's one thing, and that's being able to get laser focused on what is the most important things that they should be doing. Most small business owners that I come across are what I call amateur firefighters. They wake up, half of the people, and this is statistically true in America, roll out of bed, immediately pick up their phone and start scrolling mindlessly, whether they're checking text, voicemail, social media, email, and they're kind of off to the races. And they spend about 3 minutes on each activity until their brain gets a little bored, and they bounce from topic to topic to topic, and they don't get laser focused on anything that they're trying to accomplish throughout the day. So if they don't get focused, they don't know what their main priorities are. I'll give you a quick example. It wasn't that long ago. I had two different people come see me in the same day. Both happen to be doctors. They're both family practitioners. So even though we don't think of a doctor as an entrepreneur, if you have your own family practitioner, your own office, you are also an entrepreneur. And a lot of folks in that industry struggle a little bit because, they've already went through 12 years of school learning how to be a doctor, and then being an entrepreneur just doesn't seem like it's a high priority. Either way, both of them came in. First one, call her Mandy. Mandy came in and she was opening a second location, and she wanted to make sure she had all of her ducks in a row. She wanted to verify that she had thought through, just not just the location, but hiring and training and all that. And as I talked to her for an hour, she was just calm and peaceful, and everything I would bring up, she had already taken care of. She had already got the second location. She had it built out. She even had her new staff hired, even though they hadn't started yet, and she's already training them with new SOPs and checklists. She had it figured out. When we got done, she didn't really need to take any advice I had. I just sat and listened to her and asked her what she kind of did every day to get to where she was this organized. And she said it was getting up at 5 a.m. And I don't think the hour matters, but essentially in her household, that meant she was up before the husband and the kids and the dog was every morning, and that she got laser focused on what her day was like. She prayed and meditate and kind of journal a little bit and clear the clutter from her mind. Well, she left. Hour and a half later, Doug rolls in. Now, Doug has his own practice. He's not interested in opening a second location. He's just trying to keep the first one open. And he's half an hour late. He's on his phone when he comes in. He's up, down, left, right. So he finally gets off his phone and starts asking me questions. And Rocky, when I say he's asking me questions, he doesn't even finish his own question before he interrupts himself to ask the second question. Like, how do you do this? Well, I just don't understand it. People don't want to work anymore, and the insurance companies don't do this right. And my patients are just so impatient. Da, 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 da. Rocky, by the time he left, I was exhausted. We didn't really talk any about how to make his practice any more efficient or any better. He was on his phone and he was on, his text messages and he's on his email. So I talked to him just having after talked to her and said, "Hey, Doug, so tell me a little bit about how you structure your morning." And he just kind of looked at me. You know how a puppy dog will look at you and kind of cock their head sideways like they're not quite sure what you're saying. And he just smiled real big and said, "Oh, I get up just like anybody else. I have to check my phone first thing, and then I have to check the news, and I have to see what's going on in the world." And he kind of almost patted me on the head before he left, like I was just giving him some kind of mundane academic advice that didn't pan out in the real world, when I was suggesting that maybe he get a little more focused and maybe he write down what his priorities were and, get organized in that way. So either way, fast forward a year later, Mandy's got her second location. She's a rock star, and Doug's still struggling. So that's kind of the epitome of when I say getting laser focused and knowing what your priorities are above just trying to be an amateur firefighter is one of the top things that most small business owners miss.
And I think when you look at how they prioritize, they don't always pick the right priorities. They pick the emergency or what they think is the right priority. They don't focus on the actual levers that are measurable, that you can do the math to see what the outcomes are going to be over time.
And especially when you're talking about a podcast like yours, so many people, I'll ask them what their goals are for this year. And rarely, if ever, is it monetary. They just kind of lob out, I just like to grow my business, and I'd like to spend more time with the family, and I'd like this, and I'd like that. When we start talking about financially speaking, what does that look like pen to paper? What does the revenue need to be? More importantly, what does that gross or net profit need to be? And so many people have no clue what it should be. They don't know what the industry average is, so they don't have any way possible to work backwards into it. Because if I can figure out what the gross revenue is or what the net profit should be, then I can figure out, what's the average sale per customer? Well, how many customers do I need? And then that's how I build out some of the priorities, at least, to be able to scale my business appropriately.
And that's one of the things we do for our clients is we actually show them the math behind those systems. So you start at the beginning, right? How many leads do we need? What's our lead conversion rate? That gives us this many customers. What's the average customer worth? In other words, how many times do they buy? What's the average value? That gives us total revenue. What's our cost of goods for delivering that? Now we have our net profit. And then what's our overhead? And how do all those factors get affected based on how many people are coming through the door? And then we can forecast out for the year. And then you can figure out, well, what's the first step to all of this? Well, I need leads. How do we get leads?
Right.
What's the most important thing to drive that entire process? And too often in today's world, I think everyone looks to the internet to give them leads. Well, I'll just throw some money on Facebook ads or Google AdWords, and money goes out the door pretty quick. And 3 months or 6 months later, the conversation is, where's my business?
Right. Now, if you wanted to take away, again, one other thing, make sure you understand the process for obtaining whatever leads that are coming in, and understand that leads are not generated overnight. This bleeds over into my explainer video business. I have entirely too many people that will hire me to create an explainer video, and they believe that if they'll spend X number of dollars on it, that will suddenly fix all of their marketing issues. And then I have to be the one that explains to them, and hopefully I catch them before we get to the end of the process of, hey, a video itself does not generate leads. And I mean, this isn't 2002, it's 2022. In 2002, maybe a video all on its own would magically bring in all the leads you need. Now you just have to have video to compete, to keep up, to have something that's tying in all of the rest of your business. For lead generation, it's, you need to have 3 or 4 things you're doing very consistently to a very targeted customer base. You need to have measurables to know that if I do X, Y, and Z, it'll create these leads. And like you said, it's up to you to figure out what the average closure rate is, and then you can start working backwards into building a profit into your business.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. So let's kind of look at the other thing. You've worked with a lot of business owners. What are some of the top reasons that businesses fail?
Oof. Well, you'll appreciate this. The biggest ones out of the gate that I see is just a lack of capital and cash flow as they get started. And this can affect you 5 or 10 years down the road, because once you dig that hole, it becomes difficult to pull yourself back out of it. So if you're already at that point, it's just trying to get to a position where you can fix the cash flow issues as they stand. For a lot of your listeners, it sounds silly, but if you do a home budget first before you do anything else, that helps the business side of the budget on down the road. And I have a lot of people that are very hesitant to even consider that, but simply adding a zero to the end of your monthly income doesn't fix money issues. It usually exacerbates it. So I think about, it's funny, I go all the way back to 2008 when I first started. One of my very first clients that came in the door was a gentleman. He owned 2 businesses. He had a roofing business and he had a car wash business. And he was wanting to get his loan restructured. He had already went to the bank. He's getting behind. And this is back in the days of the stated income loan. So he had loans all over the place. And I think he also had a fear of spreadsheets, because no matter how many blank cash flows I'd send him, he'd tell me he just couldn't do it. So we sat down together, and I had him come into the office, and he brought very little of any documentation. We just had to go line by line through his business expenses to figure out if he was making money. And lo and behold, in both businesses, he was getting a net profit. Not enough to really, be where it should be, but it wasn't dying on the vine either. They were both at a net that was slightly below the industry average. Nothing big, but you could fix it. Then we went to his personal budget, Rocky. Holy cow. By the time we got done, this dude had between about $25,000 and $30,000 of monthly expenses for his household budget. And we looked at, he had, wasn't $1 million home back then, but it was a huge mortgage. He had beach homes. He had kids in private school. He had every bell, every whistle, every student loan, credit card, jet ski, motorcycle. And we sat down together, scratched it all out. I created a cash flow projection for him to show how far into the hole we were going. And, he like, hey, man, Brad, what do you want to fix with this? Well, I could maybe cut cable. I don't know. The wife isn't going to be too happy with that. And then he just kind of stared back at me like, will that work? No, man, that's not going to work. Fast forward, he didn't get his loan refinanced, and he wasn't very willing to make some of those changes. So either way, that long story short, you're talking about what are some of these issues? Lack of capital, lack of collateral, lack of experience, a lack of planning, which again ought to be right into your wheelhouse. And I always use this analogy, and I'll apologize to anybody who has heard me use it before, but I've got 3 kids at home, ages 13, 10, and 9. A few years back, my wife wanted to go to Disney. Not just, visit the park. She wanted to stay there on site and go full blown. My wife's also an accountant by trade, which means she likes to plan things. For that 1 week we were staying there, she had put more thought, effort, and energy into planning that trip. Rocky, I'm telling you, brother, she had an Excel spreadsheet that was color-coded, multiple tabs. There was VLOOKUPs in there. I'm not even really sure I understand what a VLOOKUP is, but she had these spreadsheets talking to each other and knew what we were supposed to do, where we were supposed to be, each and every minute of every day. And I realized right then she'd put more planning into that 7-day vacation than most small business owners do into operating something that's supposed to support them fully. But either way, those are some of the reasons. And others we can chat about. Just a lack of marketing, a lack of delegation or ability to scale, and even more importantly, a lack of confidence.
I don't think businesses realize it takes a lot of money to grow. And one of the biggest reasons they fail is growth. They think that just because we're growing, everything will be solved. And the reality is depending on the business and how the cash flows, even if you're profitable, you can run out of cash on your way to your success. And that all requires planning. and understanding how the deals come through. And that's one of the conversations I'm having with some of my capital intensive clients who are in the real estate world.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard to get all your money trapped into a property. And while you're profitable, you don't have cash flow to make everything work. It's just sucking up all your cash. Same thing in a business that carries a long inventory and lead time flow.
Right.
It's going to hog up a bunch of your cash. And if you don't plan it out and you aren't prepared for it, it's the cash flow that's going to kill you more than anything. And
100% agree. There's so many small business owners that don't know the difference between a P&L and a cash flow. And that's, I try to catch people as early as possible to make sure they can understand before we ever get started. That cash flow is as, if not way more important than the P&L itself, because that's going to show you when we run out of capital. And when you run out of, when that cash flow hits negative, it's game over. There's no continuing on to the next month because something or somebody's not getting paid.
And it's funny because a lot of spending doesn't show up on the P&L. If you buy an asset, it doesn't show up on your profit and loss. It shows up on your balance sheet. And so you can't even see that all your money just went into whatever it is you just bought.
Right.
It's not clear. And if you're making payments on loans, your capital payments on your loans don't show up on your P&L. And so you're wondering, hey, my P&L says I'm profitable. Why is my cash so short? Where's my money?
My checking account got these red things on it.
Yeah. And that's because it's not a complete picture. And so understanding the total picture, planning it out, and depending on the client, we do different levels of things. Some need more, some need less. It all depends on your business. Each business is different. And so you've got to create custom dashboards that are built around that particular business and how they work. Everybody wants to scale and grow. That seems to be the goal.
Sure.
But it seems to me a lot of people don't do it correctly. What advice do you have for them?
Well, first of all, is actually make an effort to do it. Fun fact, I taught a workshop yesterday how to what would I name that? How to properly scale your business. I had 12 people registered. One showed up. So it's one of those topics that a lot of people like to chat about, but not put a lot of effort into. First thing I always tell them is you got to have a goal in mind. And without that goal, nothing else matters whatsoever. I heard, Rocky, have you ever get to see Zig Ziglar in person?
Not in person, no, sir. I've heard him.
I caught him one time. It's been years ago. It was the biggest dog and pony show I've ever seen come to Nashville. It took to Bridgestone Arena, which holds like 20,000 people. And they were advertising Zig Ziglar, Colin Powell, Peyton Manning. For only $19. And then in between each one of them, they had these dudes come out and want to sell you timeshare sales and all kinds of other fun stuff in between. So that's how they managed to get that done. But that's where I first heard him talk about goal setting in terms of this story he would tell. 1953 graduating class at Harvard, 90% of them didn't have written goals and 10% of them did. And when they had the 20-year reunion, the 10% that did, outperformed the 90%, by 3 times in terms of blah, blah, blah. Either way, say all that to say, I don't think that, I don't even know if that story is true, but it makes a great point of what I try to explain to people. When we know what your goals are first, then we can work backwards into them, and that's how you scale it appropriately. And a lot of times when we're talking about scaling, it's more about delegation to other people to do things that you're not the one that needs to be doing it, and making sure that you have the cash flow set aside for that as well. So I tell them both of those things are important. First and foremost, scale out the cash flow. If your goal is let's say you're a $800,000 business and you want to be $1 million business. Well, let's cash flow that out. And once you cash flow it out, does that mean we need, for the extra $200,000 of revenue, do we need a $30,000 person in place? Well, let's put in all of the line items that get us there. Then if we know we need another person, another piece of equipment, we can plan ahead for it. And if it's people that you need, it's as simple as documenting what they do, what tasks they do, how often those tasks recur, and then creating some SOPs, standard operating procedures, or job descriptions that match up to those tasks that they have to do, train somebody how to do it, and get out of their way and let them do it. Now, that is assuming you have the cash flow or the capital set aside to do it. That's why that cash flow is so important before you ever try to scale. So many people do not do that. They just get busy, so to speak, and getting busy doesn't help if we run out of cash in the meantime.
I'm currently reading the book, Who, A Method for Hiring. And the biggest thing that they talk about in the book is, number one, when you hire somebody, understand what you want them to do and be very clear about how you're going to measure them and what the expectations are so that you can hire a good fit for that position to make sure that they are matched up. They talk about people just hire people and say, go do this, but it's not in alignment with who they are and what they do. And so being crystal clear on all of that, I think, is super, super important. And then figuring out how to appropriately compensate it. You know, the whole goal of that book is how do we hire A players? Right. Because everybody wants A players, but most people say, I can't afford A players. The reality is you can't afford not to have A players in your business. So you've got to be crystal clear, and that will help you get to that of.
Yeah, so many people are hired, and it's not just at small businesses, and smaller businesses are usually the main culprit, but even at larger businesses where there's not a clear job description. It's follow Rocky around for about a week, and he'll let you know how things work around here, and we'll check in on you at 90 days and see if you did your job or not when it's way too late. And what I tell people is, especially as a small business owner, and I've done this myself, so I know how to do it. I know how painful it is, but you've got to keep track. If you don't know what all you're doing and you're overwhelmed, just track what you're doing for a week. As painful as it sounds, I even created a spreadsheet that would auto-calculate how I spent each and every minute of each and every day. And I kept up with it for several weeks, and at the end of that, I could batch and total. Here's all the things that somebody else could be doing that I have the cash and available to let them do. And for me, it was as simple as getting a virtual assistant through Upwork. Somebody overseas that was better at every little minor task that I didn't want to do that they could do quickly and painlessly for a very good rate. All I needed to do was create these one-page SOPs. And even a lot of those cases, for a lot of the repetitive tasks you do that are administrative, use an online screen recording tool. Record you going through, whatever administrative process you're doing, and outsource it to somebody else. And then, as you stated, give them what the expectations are. Rocky, I need you to enter these names into this database, mark them as a lead, set up a future date for me to talk to them here, here, and here. Should take you about an hour to do. Here's exactly how to do it. And then once you finish, go into this. I'm a big fan of project management software, and I'm telling you this is a one-man shop with a handful of contractors. I use Asana, and that's just one of many. There's Monday.com and Basecamp and 15 others where you can assign these tasks and just check them off when they're done. That's one of the easier ways to scale that I know that you can track what somebody's up to. And track, it's not micromanaging, it's just keeping a clear expectation of what we're all doing.
And I'm very much with you on that. It's creating systems and processes. Businesses run on systems and people run the systems. And what I find is most businesses don't have good systems, or somebody creates a system and then they leave and the next person comes in and has no idea what the system was or how to do it. Yeah. And nobody else knows either. They're like, we don't know, that person did it all. We have no idea. We can't tell you what to do. And
think of the number of times you've had to get in touch with somebody for any reason, whether it was for your business or even your own personal situation. And that's Becky. She's not here right now. She's got COVID. Couldn't tell you the number of times I couldn't get my car repaired or couldn't get somebody to make a decision on an explainer video because, so-and-so's out. Nobody else knows how to do it.
You should have a business where everybody knows either how to do it or how to figure out how to do it. I mean, if you think about it, and I think that the most classic example of this is McDonald's. McDonald's can put anybody into any position. And literally, it's, push buttons, follow these systems.
Yep.
And wherever you go, that burger comes out the same. Whether you like it or not is irrelevant. They deliver consistently across the country with pretty reasonable time frames. I don't know. I mean, I don't go there, so I don't know how they're doing in COVID. I do know some places have done horrible during COVID. Because they didn't have good systems and processes to deliver. And when they're short on employees, It all implodes on them.
Hey, man, I can tell you, I've used this example a few times, and I won't name names because I don't want any, not that either one of these giant grocery chains or chicken places would come after you, but we've got 2 grocery stores right down the road. One of them, grocery stores were impacted greatly. One of them, a big box brand, is down the road here. Looks like a third world country, had a bomb hit it, and then they have never recovered. Nobody knows what's going on. They're totally out of stock of everything, and they've got 3 employees, and 2 of them's on their phone. And then the other one, Publix, we can name them. It's like COVID never happened there. And I don't know if you guys have a Publix where you are, but it's a fantastic grocery chain. Slightly higher price, not super high, but they train their employees very well, and they've managed to keep their employees, and they, pay them very well. And it's, they're still rocking and rolling. Same with, 2 restaurants down the road. One of them, a chicken place that now closes at 4 p.m. and they're not open for dinner because they can't, they don't have the stuff in stock. They don't have the people trained. They don't have the culture. They don't have the environment. And you turn right around the corner and Chick-fil-A has a line 2 miles down the road, and you're in and out in 5 minutes. COVID never happened to them other than they had to shut the dining area down, but their people are well trained. They're well compensated. They're happy to be there. Same concept, but that's exactly, both of them had systems in place, and they had the culture there to support it.
And I've experienced both of those places, and I concur with you. Any parting thoughts you'd like to leave with our business owners that you haven't had a chance to share?
Just that I'll reiterate everything that you've said on this podcast or podcast before. Your cash is king. Make sure you take a good look at, how much profit is coming in, how much net profit is coming in. If you don't know how to check to see how you're doing, I always recommend that a small business owner looks at their P&L if they're doing that and compare it to an industry standard. There should be a trade organization that you're a part of that will be able to provide that information. I think a free one out there is called BizStats, BizStats.com, and it'll allow you, if you're a landscaper, if you're a caterer, if you're a business consultant, or whatever, they have P&L breakdown of what your average gross profit should be, your net profit, what the average person is spending on marketing or payroll as a percentage basis. Take a look there first before you start doing anything else to grow your business, to outsource or anything else, and make sure you got your numbers in place. If your numbers aren't in place, work on that first. Once you get your numbers aligned with what the kind of industry average is or whatever you want it to be, then start working on the rest of it.
Makes total sense. If people would like to connect with you, learn more about your services, what is the best place for them to do that?
So if they're wanting to learn a little bit about explainer videos or how to take your side hustle and turn it into a full-time business, visit my website, yourcharlesalexander.com. Same way you can find me on LinkedIn as well, yourcharlesalexander.com. If you're wanting to take advantage of a small business development center, just Google SBDC, your city name, and find one close to you.
And we'll put that into the comments. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Rocky. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in for this week's episode. My name is Geeta, and I am another one of the Profit First professionals on the Profit Comes First team. Charles and Rocky went back to the basics today and talked about some key components for a successful business. Keeping it simple, holding yourself accountable, and truly prioritizing what's important. Honing in on what's most important for your business might sound easy, but it's very common for business owners to be scattered and working on too many different things. It's hard to hold yourself accountable when you're spread too thinly and aren't really focused on anything in particular. That's why today's action challenge is simple. We're not really asking you to think about or figure out something new or unfamiliar this week. Instead, think about the one thing that you've continued to think about or ponder but haven't taken action on yet, even if you know it's time to. You've wanted to focus on it for so long because you know how important it will be. Maybe it will simplify certain processes, help you better train your employees, or streamline a particular part of your business. Whatever that goal is, make it a point this week to prioritize that above everything else and not to let yourself get distracted. Sometimes the things that will help our businesses most fall to the wayside because we get distracted by things that are more fun or more glamorous. We're cheering you on this week while you focus on that one thing that you've been putting off. If you want a done-for-you service, you can hire us as your chief profitability officers. You have your own area of expertise, and maybe you want to spend more of your time doing what you love. We only work with a handful of clients, so they all get our full attention. We work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on our calendar for a good fit conversation to see if we're the right people to support you and how we can help you.
Hey, it's Rocky. Don't forget to check out my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we talk about life beyond money and how to live that ultimate life and become a better leader in your company. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.